哎，上个厕所去，妈个鸡！
来了啊，大可对。 大可对雷诺。
On the one hand, we have a BlizzCon champion taking on the reigning Intel Extreme Masters Katowice champion, a perfect rematch of last year's round of 8. Please welcome on stage, it is Dark and Reynor.
这场是2019年的翻版啊，世界总决赛的翻版。时隔3年，两位选手又是站到了同一个舞台上面。雷诺能不能够一雪前耻，报当年之仇，就看今天的。雷诺昨天的状态是非常好的。
A BlizzCon champion and a Katowice champion, a Reynor champion versus a Dark champion. My name is Fear Dragon, and I'm joined here by DeMuslim, and we are getting ready to start off our round of 8, our quarterfinals here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. Ben, how you feeling about this match?
I was just thinking, what a way to start things off. I remember the finals between these two at BlizzCon, and I remember some words uttered by Dark.
雷诺的 ZVZ 的确是还是有点实力的，但今天面对大可的时候，他的 ZVZ 未必会那么好打。大可没有打 ZVZ， 现在哦不对，是输给了 Zero 他的 ZVZ。
好了，大可对雷诺，
大可主要是打得很拼的一个选手。
Honestly, I wouldn't know who to say is the favorite. Like, just hearing about them talk about one another, there's a lot of respect shown these days because they both know they're some of the absolute best Zergs in the world. But I did like what Dark said. He likes the fact that Reynor enjoys the game, and he's trying to implement that in himself as well, to just try and enjoy the moment, enjoy the game, and have fun with it. But you can definitely tell that Reynor's having a lot of fun on stage.
Absolutely. A big old smile on his face compared to the calm and collected stare of Dark. Just looking like he's getting ready to enter absolute killer mode right here. Really interesting difference between the way that both these players end up approaching this series and everything. And I do want to actually mention that you're mentioning that they had played a bunch of matches against each other previously. Reynor most recently actually winning
这场 ZVZ 其实不好说啊，这场
2-0 in the TSL 8。
从历史战绩来看的话，就不是说历史战，从我的感觉来看的话，大可这场比赛输的概率还是挺高的。雷诺 ZVZ 还是值得信任的。那雷诺新冠这肯定好了呀，他。
没好，他不可能坐在这里。
对，没好，他这个比赛他就不能来参加，好吗？
阳性就是不能进入到比赛赛场的。
Yeah, Reynor just seems to be so comfortable though, and you know he's the kind of guy that I know he's not faking it whatsoever. I think we're looking forward to a real cracker here.
雷诺这个对付挺帅的。你们的意思就DP 这个不帅喽？
那雷诺这个造型其实他还不够壮，他再壮一点，这个造型就很帅。
已经蛮壮了，雷诺已经蛮壮了。
It's going to be very interesting to see that go up against Dark, who earned himself the name for a very long time as the non.
他们国外的队服卖很贵的，你知道吗？国外的队服都是按那个，都是按那种球衣卖的，很贵。
Down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming.
大可竟然没有放12D 啊！ 不是他的风
第一
格呀。
盘我觉得应该不太会放12。
那大可应该会 all in 一把，我觉得这里。好了，都是偷黄金矿。
Especially when you only have one veto, or rather 2 vetoes, but now we're just down to 1 veto apiece, and both these players already up to gold-based shenanigans, which isn't super weird for ZVZ. It's one of the reasons that a lot of players like to avoid this map playing against Zerg, but yeah, there's not really any super way to punish it, I don't feel, but yeah, they're both going to go with it anyhow.
That's absolutely going to be the case.
这张地图呢，都开黄金矿，其实的确可以拼一枪你直接12D 的，因为开黄金矿这个守不住12D 的。但这种一般来说的话，开黄金矿双方前期就会进入到一个相互打一波的一个阶段，就你守不住，因为如果你守的话，
拼狗毒爆了，
你守的话你要守两边，
都拼狗毒爆。这个局面基本上就拼狗毒爆的局面。
对。
而且很可能狗毒半转蟑螂，直接就一波打脸了，因为太近了2个黄金矿。
Really strange kind of a set of engagements there.
Yeah, and you might be wondering, like, oh, why don't people do this on Blackburn then? There's gold base on that map. On this map, slightly different. The gold base actually has 8 patches to start off with. So not only is it almost equal to a, normal blue base where you have the 6 mineral patches, it's actually far, far better. So both players respecting one another. Both of them transferring quite a few drones. I don't know how many over here for Dark. He was a little
来了，要拼起来了啊！我靠，大可拉了那么多出来。
没错的呀，先直接满复合呀，也没有满复合，就
每片矿都有个农民嘛，基本上。
雷诺拉的更多好吗？
Maybe just a few extra things in his mix there that just gave him a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
雷诺放毒爆虫巢了，大可也放。
对，都是这样的。这个图就是短平快。
这他们说草台班子，都他妈8进4了，还是那个R12。你们眼睛怎么那么尖呀？别人稍微有点失误，你们就都看到了。这眼睛也太尖了。
It's about when you pull the trigger. Like we've all seen Dark against Serral, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to test you with a 12 pull, drone pull, doing the spine crawlers, and it didn't work out. But then in that second game, he was actually testing Serral throughout everything, and Pig likes to call it a bit of a noob check, kind of. But pulling that off at this level, it's crazy. But we do see already both these players going for quite a few lings, and this is where it can start to get a little bit spicy in your ZVZ.
Yeah, kind of cool or interesting that Reynor is starting to
好了，这个就完全看操作了。直接吃。
就凭操作啊，这个没什么好说的。
有个女王在还好，那大克这个防守应该没有问题。你刚才，哎呦漂亮骗的，我靠！
完了，
牛啊！
这他妈的遭中了，
这波牛啊！
这5个农民，雷诺刚偷出来的。大可直接一波了，蟑螂巢放下去。
他肯定
这个图很近的，太近了。
哎，这怎么过来的？我看都没看到，怎么过来的？
我只能说这2个人都有东西啊。
这炸一下没用啊，你又补不了刀。
又分2条狗过去，继续。有东西，
一个操作失误就没了，真的就一个操作失误。
大哥现在人口那个农民数量很低，硬操作啊这个。
他打一波的农民22个农民够了。
蟑螂巢好了，大哥但是没多少钱。雷诺在爆女王了。哎，再进来，
还行。
这个农民也还好。这边想进去偷不到啊，
感觉大可有点危险。
大可感觉操作被爆了呀，
操作被爆了。不，你这个 ZVZ 不能跟这妈的每天妈的唱 rap 的这种狗逼拼操作的呀。他觉得他这个唱的时候，他觉得他无敌的呀。
他兴奋的一逼了。
对啊。 雷诺现在就是我补点蟑螂，补点农民，对，我知道你要打一波，我就守你一波就好了。其实农民补的已经够多了，雷诺再补农民，哇，这个农民输的杀的
40个农民的雷诺，妈这凭什么守得住啊？40个，他就觉得操作好，
他能守
4个女王走出来，感觉
女王
守不住心脏，
加血压，
忘记了，但他张狼出来了，他还是守住了。再打毛40个农民打19个农民，大哥反正一波打到底。
大哥真的是被那个爆了，妈这黄金矿还有个管子，被操作爆了，大哥。
这个是纯操作爆的。
妈的，这时候不得不感叹一下年轻人的力量，这就是年轻人。
是呀，他不到40个农民都守住了，那还说个毛啊！输了，大可没了，对方40个农民在造地，大可就19个农民。
雷诺现在 A 过去就好了，求稳一下就升一勾慢慢打。但无论哪种打法，他现在39个农民我就直接爆兵了，我发现我有农民也不造了，
我就傻爆就好了。
对啊，
傻爆其实女王都可以走一波了，他反正女王也没停的。
Really got to be feeling happy about how this has gone so far now. Dark is going to continue to try and play this out, see if he can make something happen. You can see just in
大鸟还想做空雷洛。
这你妈的！
哎呦，这反应真的
好快！你们还想做空，现在做空没做到，他们还被抬一手架。
is going to be the really difficult thing to overcome because Reynor, he's not going to give Dark, 10 more minutes to try and come.
雷诺要是卫冕的 IEM 的话，他就是历史上第一个卫冕 IEM 的人。
I can't believe he even eked out more drones while this was going on. Up to 47 now, doubling the supply. Dark, yeah, you saw it on his face. GG.
我靠，rap 起来了。
Convincing game one here.
Extremely convincing game number one, and I would actually say
马陆家嘴大葱，你现在都在叫他。
Extremely superior micro or anything. It felt like it was really good larva management of what units he was making when, his positioning on the attack to pull Dark a little bit further back, and also some of the scouting information that he was able to get to identify that roach attack and know exactly when he really needed to cut the drones.
雷诺这种前期的这种操作，就在这个来看的话，我觉得就他应该是全世界最强的虫族了，就前期这种操作。
对。感觉比 Zero 还好，这个操作。
I'm actually not sure how you're doing this, but a few little edges here and there from Reynor. His build was a little bit cleaner, got to the goal base a little bit.
大可要想想办法了，就拼狗毒爆拼不过，很尴尬啊。ZVZ 狗毒爆拼不过，只能打战术。
没错。
12D 啊。
12D。
他估计有张图要反手12 D。
妈个，这说不定雷诺你妈这盘就12 D。
看地图嘛。
As we head into game number 2, Reynor's just going to be sitting up on a comfortable 1-0. And now I think the true test of who is going to be better in the ZVZ matchup is actually going to be beginning.
Absolutely, Hardwire it is, and spawning over in the top right, representing Clash and Red.
看12D 了，哦没有，这边雷诺没有，雷诺正常开的。
大可也正常，
大可也正常开。
这张图其实是可以12D 哦，
硬线这张图
可以绕狗，主要可以绕狗，可以绕狗的图都
可以绕一下。
Absolutely a big fan is Pig, and look at the crowd filling up. Oh, I wonder who they're cheering on. I have a slight sneaking suspicion that it might be the young Italian here.
Yeah, a little closer to home for Reynor, I would say, over Dark. It's a bit more of a journey for Dark and a lot of his fans to make it out over here, but I know that there are definitely
哎，真的，你妈的，在下方那个真的什么都要快一点点。
Absolutely showing up for this event as well.
真的呀，就是你看吧，这个农民造出来之后，他这个 虫卵在下面，他农民过去采矿就快一点。
对，而且你开始的那12个农民在上方是你的在农民。
对啊，你也要绕上去采嘛，对吧？
采集效率
这个就在下方是一定，采集效率就是他比你早采一点点。
对，
在下方就是要快。但就快一点点啊，快个大概1秒钟不到。
Insanely special players. Some of the ways that Dark's played in this tournament, such as against Showtime, he did it in his own way. Against Trap, absolutely in his own way, bringing out these peculiar but raw power builds. And when it comes to late game management, both these guys are super damn good.
但没办法，这个星际就是这么设计的。这比星际1平衡多了，星际1这个采集才是真不平衡。星际1要求你每片矿都要去调，手都给你调断。
Yeah, I like the way that Harsum said it. It's not even necessarily that Dark is always making what I think by standard thought processes around the current meta is the smartest decision. But he just has this amazing intuition about the game and being able to identify situations, even if he is falling behind in the earlier stages, to just make some miraculous.
下一场是 Sola 对河马，最后一场才是赛马，赛个毛雷赛，
有点乱了。
我觉得我赛马应该熬不住。Sola 这场看完差不多了，
就熬到 Sola 那场。
尽量。其实不是身体熬不住，是嗓子有点熬不住了。身体嘛，属于那种很复合的状态。不，孙哥会熬的呀，孙哥会帮你们看完的。赛马都不看，妈的，人生只有一条命啊！他妈赛马，他们赛他们的好了，看就不用。不，孙哥会播的，孙哥会播的。孙哥都不想说话了，心里不出个马买皮在飞。
稍微节省一点体力。
缓一缓。
他这个就是前期就是狗鸭子啊。但这个应该压不到中期吧？
雷诺这很自信，他每次都打的。我靠，飞一条狗啊，那么好啊！
哎啊，进不去就行。这个没什么好撞的呀，他觉得他狗多，他想要把你这个骗了吗？
把毒爆清了，然后直接咬你。
不行，他后面补农民的。2不再提了，他前就尽量给压力，给到压力之后就差不多了。
压力还是给足了。
看到的所有东西都是你在运营的。3气砍，那就要出飞龙吗？这张塔放下也应该要出飞龙，雷诺应该要出飞龙。这个飞龙的话，你首先你要狗压得住别人，你这出飞龙的战术你要很主动才行。
大可要一波，
这个飞龙
大可一防开就一波了，
应该是跳不出来的。应该跳
不出来，就是一波了。但是雷诺不一定守不住，如果他第一时间发现一波，他出蟑螂还是有机会守住。
对。飞龙出来前这一波就会到脸上。这种就真的是就靠侦查、靠博弈了，你也不知道对方是干嘛，在没有侦查的情况下。他那么多狗应该懂啊，知道一波了。5根管尽量的去拖时间，3矿已经放弃了，尽量去拖时间。
大可这个被拖惨了呀！
能不能把飞龙拖出来？
拖出来了，他6根管子怎么拖出来了？
但我觉得拖出来也很，
大可被拖惨了。
不，拖出来也很那个好吗？也未必能守得住啊，那么多的
大可蟑螂不该回来的啊。
雷诺第一波能够补多少个飞龙吗？补不了几条飞龙的，而且管子都是密集在一起的。
6条呀
，6条不够呀，6条怎么可能够啊？输了一波被打死了。
还出蟑螂的呢，7条呢。
你看有多少？
不一定打得进去的，我跟你说不一定打得进去。
那么多蟑螂，
看操作啊。他门口蟑螂还顶着呢，不一定打得进去。飞龙马上出来了，看毒爆撞的怎么样了？毒爆也没撞到什么呀。不一定打得进去啊！我跟你说了的呀。
3矿打掉了，
飞龙出来了呀！他妈的，这不好打了呀，大哥。
这都能防住啊！
是的，因为我以前经常打中一波被这样防住。就你会发现这几根管子输出很高，到后面飞龙加管子，
他主要还是
你就强行冲，
还是堵口的，
打不进去啊，赢了呀！雷诺大优，这打毛啊，这打大哥，他2矿饱和的，随便爆飞龙了。
大可这个房子必须先要走啊！外面还有散落很多房子。他主要是口堵的好，如果没有堵口的话，你这些管子你是走不住的。雷诺这样的爆飞龙，在他一攻好的时候，他的飞龙绝逼已经突破临界点了，秒天秒地。大哥想出橄榄虫，来不及橄榄虫。
How to deal with the late game situation that Reynor's going to be setting himself into.
Yeah, you could tell that Reynor's being very respectful of this, by the way. Eking out just a few battle units here, Lings and more mutas, which
现在飞龙数量还不够，还要继续
2比0，感觉2比0。科技差太远了。这种局面不就是我打数字补丁的局面吗？飞龙搞，然后按满毒爆一撞就死。
哇靠！
是这种局面吗？
差不多。
飞龙搞，毒爆从脸上滚过去。
已经突破临界点了。现在飞龙就直接切主矿，强行去交换防空就好。
对你虽然你有感染虫，但是我强行换防空你也没办法。
现在的感染虫跟以前不一样，现在你没有办法做到感染虫定住之后，你全部歼灭是不可能的。
能秒飞龙。但雷诺是不是应该切了呀？
他还在
逛街，他飞龙，差不多该切了呀。
And it's a tough situation to be in. I think one of the big questions for Dark, besides replenishing all the overlords,
大可是感染虫，然后转第一次来防守，然后慢慢的过渡到3本，
然后再转3本啊，转飞石。但我觉得雷诺逛街逛久了没切，
逛久了，哎，漂亮，
也没定到。但现在他飞龙不好切了，大可还有翻盘的资本。还有翻盘的资本吗？
马上龙狗毒爆就要来了。当龙狗毒爆来的时候，你的感染虫你是选择定这个飞龙，还是选择定这个
毒爆？
这个你要抉择了。
他其实不逛街早点切，你妈直接就切死。
但第一次在变啊，第一次。
都防了呀，我觉得滚不到啊，这个地方。看到第4了。
直接撞基地。
哦哟，直接秒基地。
其他都不用管。
大哥经济非常差，现在。
没3矿打毛。
Dark is on 2 bases right now, Ben.
Certainly is, and Reynor's feeling confident enough to take out these spores over here as well.
哎呦，定住了，哎，
定到几条？
再定啊！ 散了，
杀不了几条。你定半天也就杀几条嘛，杀不了几条。
哇！
我操！乱来了呀，开始19个毒爆一边。
但他现在这个经济不允许他乱来啊。
对啊，他经济并没有那么好。
现在主要有第一次的防守，你这毒爆也包裹。
哎，
羊肉串吗？这不
中毒爆了。转牛了呀，差不多呀，要么就转第一次，要么转牛。
转第一次。
这个地方也滚不到什么，有第四的呀，散开滚
你也很亏的呀。
骗了一把定还行，上面继续点，哎，可以突破临界点了，
还差一点点。
但飞蛇来了，他转第四了，哎呀，这有可能被翻的，我跟你说，这个局面。雷诺有点太逛街了，打的。真有可能翻啊！现在已经从刚开的2-8开打到6-4开了。雷诺还有一招飞龙带虫洞。
不，飞龙的打得主动一点。
对啊，就带虫洞直接进家呀。
难吧？这家里面这个军团出那么好，
有机会啊！飞龙虫洞进家，换直接把主家换抬了。
And we are seeing that Dark is able to establish a little bit more forward of a hatchery. He is finally getting a bit more mining going. And the Mutas are going to have a harder time actually trying to deny a whole lot over here. They can maybe try and pick away at some of the outskirt bases.
这无所谓，这个倒无所谓。
Very, very deadly. Thankfully, Reynor is one of the fastest players in all of StarCraft 2. He can pick away those mutas that get parasitic bombed in an instant.
Yeah, barely did any damage to that muta flock, and Reynor's just adding on more Vipers right now.
双方已经要打到后期了，这个没办法，雷诺没有办法再一击致命的。
Reynor did go for that +1 melee upgrade, which if you see that as Dark, you could assume that he's going to commit.
现在就要看双方对于飞蛇的操作到底怎么样。
Dark super off guard here.
Yeah, Viper's going to be a very solid way to deal with the lurker count that Dark has been going.
大可是韧性真的好，这种局面被他扳回来了。
好了，家里面也防了，虫洞都防了，没机会了。
毒爆现在没什么用啊，毒爆。
这盘要打大后期了。
不过雷诺军还是好，毕竟5块已经在手了。农民其实还是稍微多了点啊。但是话又说回来，他主要第一次少，他飞龙应该送掉一点的，不应该有那么多飞龙，那么多飞龙没用，你要去变第次，然后出飞蛇。 飞龙在这个时间点一点用都没有。
飞龙差不多可以换掉了，换成那个第一次飞蛇。
对。
Those Baneling run-bys can still be deadly. I like that Dark is finally getting a little bit of vision out on the map thanks to the Changeling. Runs on forward, confirms the location of this.
大可现在不急的原因是因为他还不知道别人是6矿。如果他知道别人是6矿的话，他就会急了。
Obviously, Reynor is ridiculously quick. The big upgrades now coming online for Reynor. Dark still has no idea, but he has to be.
他完全不知道。
Yeah,
先送一波啊，送掉。
even though they're still popping in here, hasn't been even remotely as crazy, and maybe clicking on those upgrades as well. It's like you're not getting that +2, and +2, that's how you one-shot the drone. So obviously knowing that something else is up.
Yeah.
看到5矿了。这个5矿看到之后，大哥会觉得他现在有点劣势，大家绝对想不到别人6矿都放下去了。
经济上肯定还是雷诺优势的，就看雷诺怎么进攻了。大克现在只能守，一片一片的守。这飞龙还在用啊，还是挺灵活的。
干嘛横跨乌江的？这个不理智啊！拉也行。这波大哥很亏啊，大哥。
雷诺要想用经济最后把大克压死。
I don't know exactly how that trade went. What are the Viper counts at? So Reynor did lose 2 of his, keeping the ones alive for Dark as well.
其实，在这个时间点，我觉得虫洞其实不是很靠谱。你干脆去变点空投，对吧？你变个4、5个房子，然后运点地刺和刺蛇进去。直接把
进攻手段，这个时候要丰富进攻手段。
但他变了嘛？但他只变了2个不够的。你一定要有一波趴在这个路口那一波，要让别人没办法。
这飞龙始终还是有点作用的，把图控得住。
4个地刺是没有用的，因为4个地刺你再怎么样，就那么回事了，能怎么样嘛？4个地刺打多线，就那么回事了呀。那么多飞蛇啊，打不进去啊，这怎么打进去啊？哎，大哥的地刺呢？哎，大哥地刺呢？来了，
刚来，但没有。这边雷诺好像没有反应行。
对他眼球被打完了。这波雷诺其实又是亏的，但雷诺钱真的多啊，
钱很多，他现在用钱砸死大哥。刚才空投了一下，好像。
is required to get that detection for the burrowed units, and does manage to push Reynor further back. But Reynor, I would actually say, taking some okay trades over there, and this lurker continuing to harass. He's actually getting some nice connections on a lot of the splash damage attacks that he's doing.
要进攻不是那么好进攻的。
Not because he's got like a bigger, badder, better army. It's merely because of how Dark's posturing. But for all intents and purposes, if Reynor just consumes a lot of the map before Dark gets there, this does turn into a split map scenario. He's just going to be able to have more. But he has to absorb the map. He has to expand. He has to be crazy. And he has to keep Dark back. So that is what Reynor's trying to do here. So it might look inefficient, but he is technically mining quite a lot more, which we see.
空有钱啊，但是就是打不进去。大哥就是守5片矿，
就守呀，就死守。现在大哥就是死守。
雷诺总的来说的话，雷诺优势还是挺大的，现在这个局面。
但打不进去。ZVZ 也存在这个情况，一旦第一次趴得好的话，你的确不好打。
跟好不好没关系。
雷诺现在就找机会大力出奇迹，看能不能打穿一个地方。
打不穿呀、这种怎么打穿吗？那么多防空，你眼虫怎么办？
拉
就拉飞蛇，就拉飞蛇，
拉飞蛇，
就拉飞蛇，拉飞蛇就对了。其实打到最后就是拼飞蛇，只有飞蛇才能克制地刺。
大可不一定耗得过啊，他这种飞手这样拉法。
大个气也
定一般般吧。 飞手还没死，
能拉什么拉什么，
拉地刺，
就靠飞蛇来
打消耗了，
打消耗，没办法。拉得很及时啊，这个飞蛇。
可以再往前推一下阵地了。
按他个10条飞蛇，5条操作。
好累啊 ，ZVZ 打到这个局面累的一逼，
没办法了，
跟 TVT 一样的打不进去。
地刺这个防守能力太硬拔了。
I saw Reynor kind of move around in his chair a little bit a few moments ago, and that kind of shows me like this is the kind of game that he wanted. Even though he's very good at it, having your opponent be like this, it can really come down to one mistake, which Dark.
雷诺也没法转型，现在 ZVZ
这个已经终极组合了。大可这个你妈也是个猥琐。
其实只要改一个东西 ，ZVZ 就不会这么猥琐。
对吗？
就妈的飞蛇不能拉大龙。
啊，对。
就不会打成这样的，大家大龙对 A 了就变成，对吧？
那就腐化
大龙对 A 就不可能，大龙对 A 就不会变成这种，猥琐局了。
怎么说呢？我是觉
得飞蛇不能拉大龙，其实就
飞蛇不能拉大龙，但是飞蛇对大龙还是很有杀伤力，他那个雾还是 AOE 啊。
对呀，但是就不会打成这种猥琐局了呀。
对。还有一个，我告诉你，这个你妈防空打眼虫太猛了。
飞蛇又不能拉的，飞蛇不能拉牛呀。这对吗？对吗？
是。
飞蛇不能拉牛。
That's going to be pretty solid, and need to make sure you keep those Vipers alive. Wow, this is going to be a nice little angle over here for Reynor.
就靠飞蛇来打，要靠
就是比多呀，大力出奇迹，找一个地方铺开。
有奇迹了。
只要铺开大可就死了，他钱比大可多得多。
哦，这把雾漂亮。
大可我感觉要没了，就这么冲法，大可受不了。这都没冲进去，没眼虫了是吧？
一个没眼虫，第二没飞蛇。
哎，你妈的，这都打不进去，那他妈真的天荒地老了这把。雷诺战损已经亏了1万多了，这都打不进去，那这把真的天荒地老了。我还以为大可要被冲进去了。完了，天荒地老了，兄弟们！大可这片矿猥琐起来了。
最重要是大可不会出门。
大可不出门的呀，你雷诺多2片矿就多好了。
Reynor is starting to mine from both of those gas geysers at that right center base, which is going to be a big deal. The more he can mine from that base, the less is going to be available for Dark if this does go into that mined out map situation.
只有这样才能够把这哇15个飞蛇啊！他死的东西，是死的东西，出10个飞蛇。两段进攻就有机会打进去，因为你飞蛇你误这个防空也是有效果。飞蛇很多啊，就是这么多飞，但是你这么多飞蛇有个问题，但别人误你怎么办？还好没误出来。其实就是拼飞蛇的操作。我就是5个飞蛇，看错了。
拉，互拉你妈个鸡！
好嘞，我飞蛇比你多了呀，这个时候就有机会了呀。
又来拉，继续。但别人有防空，他不是那么好拉。
防空，你误一下防空再拉呀，把地都拉出来呀，对不对嘛？
拉了你至少可以往前。
大家消耗呀，这样就是消耗呀。你不要想着一波把对方打死啊，打不死啊。
慢慢换嘛。
I'm still enjoying Reynor's position. Like being the one that's being aggressive and being out on the map is good. What's happening over on the right hand side here? A few lurkers are running up, but unit composition.
其实这种局打到这种局 ，Zero 特别。
好嘞，来呀，拉呀，哎，没能量，
对吧？打到这种猥琐局的时候 ，Zero 特别，他这种操作，包括用兵用的还是很好。哎呀，好能猥琐啊！我只能说他们这些人，
他没办法，韧性非常。
ZVZ 也打得究极折磨，真的是 ZVZ 也究极折磨。这把如果大可都翻回来，雷诺心态可能会发生点问题。那么大优势，
我觉得从现在来看的话， 有翻盘的迹象，但是也未必能翻。只是说有这个迹象。
有翻盘迹象的，还是看谁的那一波，对吧？扑得好一点。4强全是 ZVZ， 大家适应一下先。有可能4强 ZVZ， 这个真有可能。
Does he need to mine a lot more if he goes for this approach? As long as he keeps trading as efficiently as he is, two very different takes on ZVZ.
啦！
我操，这波好像大可亏了一些。
互拉，反正就是互拉。
大可冲了，
双方都在握，但冲那方肯定是亏的。
Trading so unbelievably, 24k to 51k. Like the amount of skill that this requires is insane.
There's so much.
ZME， 哎，我跟你说，4强 ZVZ ZME 也不开心，这有啥好看的吗？天天看 ZVZ。
如果我这个局面我是那个雷诺，妈个鸡我也不出门，我每个矿反正防空，第次趴着，你来冲吧，但我矿比你多，你来冲吧，大家矿踩完了之后，我们再打。说个毛，我靠！
雷诺战损亏了很多，其实
他进攻的是要亏战损的呀。
他优势那么大，他也没想到大可那么能守。
Move through the center to defend rather than to attack.
What I love for Dark is, as long as Reynor doesn't mine this left base and Dark gets
好好的一个 ZVZ 打成这样。
the same amount of stuff mined, which as long as Dark doesn't allow
要
Reynor to take
雷诺真的要
from it, with
但
how he's
没有他
been
再冲
trading,
的话，
yeah, it's going to be bad news bears for Reynor.
Starting to see that more and more of these spores are starting to burrow a bit further forward, just encroaching on the territory that Reynor was trying to.
现在水平真的好接近。
On Reynor's army, those Hydras, not exactly beefy tanks. They do go down to a couple of those fungal growths if given the opportunity to.
哎呀，气矿看到了4600的气嘛，大可。这个气是因为雷诺送了太多的飞蛇了。如果雷诺也是防空插起来，他就不会送那么多飞蛇了。
真的要被翻了。这么打，雷诺捅不进去，然后最后气打干了。
对啊。
Reynor has mostly just been relying on, say, the Hydras and those frontal units. I guess the downside of it is actually creating a building. You're effectively sim-sitting yourself out of concaves and everything else. If you're using that kind of mobile, doesn't really work.
我本来刚开始还好一点，现在这种局面就很想睡觉。
Wait a minute here, few good abducts on both sides. Vipers, lurkers getting picked off, but yeah, these spore crawlers absolutely worth their waiting. They're doing such a good job of just making it so difficult for Reynor.
谁都不想发生这样的局面。
He has to be so damn careful here, Ravi, because it's not
这就是
gonna be easy.
IEM。
This is a funny angle because it does mean that Dark has a potential of an insanely good concave, but since Dark's army is mostly on this left-hand side, I wonder if there is a small little angle that Reynor can squeeze in from. Start killing off some of those spore crawlers on the right-hand side with just a handful of these lurkers.
我睡觉4点才接班，我告诉你，我睡下去就明天中午了。只要眼睛一闭，
这波肯定要打，这波不打，
怎么可能还起得来？
没得玩了，这波必须跟你打。你猜我矿我不能忍的这个事情。
Oh my goodness, Dark's just playing the most annoying play style.
进不去啊，都是防空。
He's throwing spells on him, just moving back again if it feels unfavorable, and just pulling him into these spore fields. And wow, this is going on. Dark's just.
我靠，外面猛拆了一个。
He has to dive into these spore crawlers every time.
你都不能冲动啊
Dark, you madman.
他的都被勾进泉水了呀！
连掉2片矿。啊，他，我感觉这雷诺，我感觉他还是打
迷茫了，打不进去了。
主要我感觉其实最恶心的就是这些防空，妈打飞蛇打什么眼虫，猛的一逼。
主要就打眼虫，打完眼虫你都不知道怎么打。
哎，被吃了。雷诺完了，
翻了。
你妈这种都翻了，
太他妈能打了，我觉得大哥。
He is keeping over a 2-to-1 favorable ratio here. He's been defending the whole game on the back foot entirely, and now feels it's his time to march across the map. Reynor, are you going to be able to do what Dark's been doing the whole game? It's going to be
被
ridiculously
反横化
hard
武
to do.
将。
He's got a few spores of his own. These Hydra's going to be running into a choke point. Blind Cloud's coming down on top of Dark's army. But does Reynor have enough? He has a lot of lurkers still being morphed in. He does let them finish. He picks off a lot of these lurkers for Dark, and for once, I actually think that might have been
雷诺已经没有气了，这个是问题很大的一个问题。
He wasn't quite recovered from the fight that happened before. A lot of his Vipers weren't quite as healthy on energy. And Reynor, maybe that's a little bit of confidence he needed, but I'm just looking at his gas bank. It's absolutely.
Dark 又变了15个地次。Dark 的想法就是我采一片矿，我就为所欲矿，反正我不出门的，我就等着你来送。雷诺就是因为送的太多了。
本来还有点精神的，都已经看不动。
你眼虫你活不下来呀、啊！你没眼虫你怎么打第四？这输了。输了，
耗死了，没气了，他已经没气了，输了。
你没眼虫你怎么打第四？
没气了。
本场比赛的 MVP 就是防空。妈的，前期防飞龙，
妈的亏了2万，凭什么能赢呢？ 这个比赛一点都不精彩，虽然水平很高，对吧？水平很高，但是不是很精彩，很憋尿。不是打的那种酣畅淋漓，大家拼操作，按猛拼。 感谢帝国什么国教翻译挺大贤者的一个飞机，感谢兄弟。
哎呀，感谢兄弟啊！
挺精彩的，不，这种局属于水平非常高的局，但是大家看起来很累，就跟 TVT 有时候2个人猥琐起来之后就很累，看起来防守局。 不是那种多线进攻打得很穿的飞起的那种。
那雷诺现在已经没气到只能出蟑螂了。兵种组合已经差了Dark一个档次了。
这种局就有点像你说妈的，你看个MOBA比赛，他你妈的他们2个就上来对刷40分钟，你妈人头都没有。 2个队就对刷，然后水平很高，你妈的这2边的反演，对吧？不停的反演、做眼、反演、做眼，控视野，但就他妈不打团，就这种感觉。水平很高，但是不是很好看。
哦哟，这把雾，啦！
哦哟，
妈，这都是雾，我已经看不清楚了。
雷诺输了呀，输了，冲进包围圈了。
终于是你妈的 GG 了。
我觉得大哥下一把要12滴了。
这把大哥真的是有耐心啊！
我觉得下一把他要12滴了。
有这个可能性。
I want to remind everyone, because that was almost a 35-minute game, that started off also with Dark going for an aggressive Ling Roach attack with no lair. It was a committed attack. He really needed to get something done damage-wise. Reynor went ultra defensive, built a lot of spines just to get up his mutas and survive. And
为什么 ZVZ 都能打成憋尿局呢？
in a pretty decent position. He was in a pretty decent lead there. And Dark's
吃口面包，好饿。
for that hyper late game situation, saying I'm behind. Let me turtle up until I can even out this game with patience and better trades. That is a scary thing to have under your belt, because once you solidify yourself as being able to do that in a game, that makes it really scary knowing every single time later on in the series, Reynor gets a little bit ahead.
大可打去厕所了，我操！
Could Dark just turtle up again and try and pull off the same kind of miracle?
妈，这个去厕所是很正常的，好吗？
That definitely gives him a lot of confidence. Reynor still smiling at
还
that
是
loss. The crowd
很嗨啊
is cheering him on despite the defeat. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a bit of a kick in the teeth for Reynor, because he's played a lot of really good players in this tournament, making miraculous, almost comebacks, but that was absolutely solid play out of Dark. You just can't deny it. Not many people can do that, and in fact, I think he might be one of the only guys that can do that.
已经基本上做满了。
Do magical things before, but absolutely crazy.
现在是他们的快7点钟啊，晚上7点钟。
我要不行了，我这场看完我睡觉去了。
你去睡吧。
Love that these guys have been so supportive of both players, cheering them on,
呼吸
doing
困
a
难。
great job. I know Zamigar was telling me, and I was even tweeting about some young lads out there that were cheering on so loudly that their dad was like, "Hold on, the proxy rack's behind the mineral line. Please don't cheer too loudly. You're gonna give it away." And I'm like, "Oh, that is too adorable."
Yeah, there's a lot of great fans here, actually. Everyone that I've met so far, just walking by in the corridors, it's been like, "Hey man, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, it's good to be back." But yeah,
我这场还在录呢，我所以睡不
a
了。
lot of great games. That ZVZ
我少
goes
说
down
点
as
话
one
吧
of the most. I don't know the word for it, even though I'm an Englishman. It was just so precise and just so thought out by Dark.
Methodical, almost. Just yeah.
It really shows like true masterclass of the matchup. Anyhow, guys, we're going to go to a short break while these players rest up and give us even more games. Do stay tuned.
好了，估计要休息会儿。
对，大哥去厕所了，应该是。
所以妈的早点就可以切这个东西了。i91290K， 你妈个鸡！这是现在全世界最牛逼的这个处理器。哎，如果是这种 i9的处理器的话，我问一下兄弟们，12900K 这种，那再配个3090这种，妈星际能到多少帧嘛？300帧能不能到嘛？啊，还不是最牛逼的吗？
应该是算比较牛逼的了。
不，我只问一下嘛。一个单核游戏没用啊，我懂了。
不行，那我走了，拜拜。
啊，你去吧。
拜拜，各位拜拜。
明天你下斗鱼吧，我也不录了，好吧？
我直接下斗鱼，
下斗鱼吧。
你也别录了，
我也不录了。
我明天下斗鱼，拜拜。
Getting ready to move back into game number 3. Hope you all have had a nice little opportunity to get up, stretch, rejuvenate yourself after that game number 2.
好了啊，大哥
This
回
is
来
a
了。
best of 5, and we still have a minimum of 2 games, if not more, in a tied-up series.
Absolutely, I just took a little bit of a break myself just to go grab some water, ran back immediately, and I'm excited for this one. I don't know what's going on.
我他妈牛逼个毛，老子他妈的也快死了好吗？
As long as it gets to the late game, as long as it gets to the late game, I'm going to be absolutely.
他你妈这 ZV 打的人都傻了。
Different strategies out of both these players now. Anyhow, Berlingrad will be the third map of the series. Spawning here in the bottom right as our red Zerg. It is Reynor.
好了，我们来看双方的第3场比赛啊。这场 DVD 本来我以为很快就结束了。不要给我戴帽子，我跟你们说啊，闭嘴，看比赛啦。
And he was looking so calm and zen. He was like, had his eyes closed, just sat back.
都是裸双，这个图其实是可以选择12，因为比较近这个图。
Wherever he went, I think he went there during that game too, because that was absolutely phenomenal play. And thinking about it from Reynor's perspective as well, it's like, well, I don't want to get delay game ever, so we might.
雷诺刚才其实就大克去的厕所，其实对于雷诺也是好事，可以稍微的冷静一下。
talking about at the very beginning of the match before either of these players started playing, you could see the difference in their.
这个可以稍微冷静一下，因为自己占那么大的优势没有拿下，就是太急了，就觉得自己优势很大，然后觉得太想拿下比赛，所以才会导致这样的一个结果。
Fast-paced game on Pride of Altaris, and then you had Dark in that last game going for the ultimate calm and collected style of play.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely polar opposites, right? Like, you're absolutely right. Very cool to see. Berlingrad, it is a map that is a little bit short in rush distance, which does allow for some cheeky builds to go on. Neither player is doing anything too ridiculous at this point in time. No 12 pulls to be seen so far in this series. Dark is somebody that's absolutely.
这一盘应该大家都还是不会选择这种打肉一波的战术。
Both going for the hash gas pool.
先看一下双方开局吧。
It's a stereotype or a bit trite to say right after the really long game. I feel like a lot of players
主要有太多的这种细节。
So I like that both these players are kind of sticking around for a little bit. If you're gonna go for a big attack or something, I think there are some really.
开局都一样啊，两条狗都是2条狗去侦查。 我这个局面我不是很喜欢去先出2条狗，我喜欢后出2条狗，然后你狗差不多到我家的时候，到我3矿的时候，我的狗才刚刚出来，这样的话我前面农民就比你补得快一点。当然这个东西每个人理解都不一样嘛。我是很简单，我只要看到你开这个3GD 了，那就说明你的战术是跟我一样的。对你2条狗其实前期也没什么意义。 前期基本上都是名牌。哎呦，漂亮！雷诺这个操作可以。爆了20条狗啊！雷诺这个爆狗要前去压制一波，但大哥的狗也很多。 这个狗就是压制的狗，没有他们这个级别的这种对抗是不可能说什么一波狗毒爆直接把你打死，没有的。大哥憋了5个毒爆，哎，大可是一波啊！ 2个毒爆手加3个毒爆绕路，咬毒爆咬掉1个，第2个咬不掉了，要靠操作。雷诺先散开，哎，散得很漂亮，直接强秒你毒爆，漂亮。但家里面农民肯定要遭中，这个没有悬念。哇，9个农民。 先毒爆咬掉，这波打下来，其实我觉得差不多，因为大克的狗被耗了很多，后面还有毒爆。现在雷诺想的是把你基地蹭掉，蹭不掉。
Yes, the supplies are relatively even, but Dark
also
has
some roaches
coming on out. That is going to be a big game changer in these little trades. It certainly is.
因为下来他就想着，我先把你这个绕路，找机会基地能不能蹭掉。看到蟑螂了，哎，这难受了，有2个毒爆，这波雷诺肯定要遭中啊，3G 要掉。
It's not over just yet, but he's feeling the pressure, putting up a spine crawler at his natural as well. He's going to be dancing.
这3G 应该掉了。他没有毒爆，雷诺没想到那么多的狗带上毒爆，反打也打不了。雷诺这盘凶多吉少了，有蟑螂的呀，你狗毒爆你是没有用的，蟑螂直接点你就好了。大哥在压的同时，家里面也在补农民。 大克现在已经是一个巨优的局面了。这个局面，我觉得现在大克现在给我觉得我应该也应该赢了。就很简单，你雷诺如果没开3矿，那你就是2矿跳飞龙，对吧？你没开3矿，我就到时候一波蟑螂毒爆过来，就一波把你打死了。干嘛你们打什么问号？这种局面我看不懂。而 ZVZ 还有实力的好不好
？Yeah, this is going to become a problem as we start to get to this work account, especially if your third base gets sniped off yet again.
反穿，这个反穿还可以，但是这个正面怎么弄呢？正面它就是一波啊。好的，你正面怎么弄？你没有东西可以扛这个蟑螂的呀。后面毒爆马上变出来了。
Oh, Dog's using Reynor's own base against him here. Look at that choke point. All those lings running in single file here just to die. Nice little evo block there. Just make it a little bit tricky to go around.
还有毒爆，还有毒爆，点毒爆，漂亮！这2下点的相当到位。如果这2下不点的话，可能农民要死很多。
Doesn't end up losing almost any drones. He takes a lot of hits on them, but keeps alive and all of that drone damage on the other side.
但是就算是这样，雷诺依然是劣势非常非常大。
Even without a third base, 35 workers, I mean, not exactly going to be fully saturated for 3 bases.
再进来，先把毒爆点了。刚才其实大克有失误，刚才大克蟑螂堵在门口的时候没有点毒爆，如果把毒爆先点了的话，那就不是这样子了。啊，现在直接上 H 组，农民现在才死2个，这农民穿的非常的好。后面狗再来，但是雷诺是因为是有1防的，所以说他的这个蟑螂有点硬。各种卡位置啊，